Hello and welcome to Knife Delights. It's time for a Way Back Wednesday. Yes, that great open tag started by the man, the legend, the curator of cutlery, Warthog. Thanks, Warthog, for starting this great open tag. I love my buck knives, but equally as passionate I've gotten over the years, I love discovering these old knives and learning everything I can about old knives. And we have a knife maker here, or a knife company, called Hammer Brand. And this video is based on a viewer request. One of my viewers has a Hammer Brand camp knife, and he's saying, how do I date this thing? How do I know when it was made? So I thought we'd briefly go over how to date specifically a Hammer Brand knife, but this kind of pertains to all knives in general. So one of the places that I start is, you want to look at their Tang stamp on the knife. So we'll take a look here. This is a nice clear one here. You can see Hammer Brand, and there's an arm and a hand holding the hammer. And then it has USA down the side. So that's the Tang stamp. So how do I know when that knife was made? Well, I go to a Tang stamp chart. Now, not all knife companies, those that have gone by the wayside, not all of them have a Tang stamp chart put together. They're online. If you just do a search in your search engine for whatever brand, whether it's Case, Buck, Imperial, Schrade, whatever, just, Schrade Tang stamps. And if a chart has been put together, why, it'll pop up and then you can start studying. So as we can see here, with Hammer Brand, we have 1936 to 37. And you can see what that Tang stamp looks like. Then we have 1938 to 1941, 1945 to 55, and that's where it ends. The Hammer Brand line stopped in 1956. And just real briefly, Hammer Brand started out as a division of New York Knife Company, and then sometime in the 40s, I believe it was, they were bought out by Imperial. That's why when you look at some of the older Imperial knives and put them side by side with a Hammer Brand, they look very similar, and that's probably because they had the same tooling and the same equipment. Everything was the same except the Tang stamp on it. So, I want to point out something though. You see how there's a C here? That C stands for circa, which means on or about. You cannot take this verbatim. You can't take this as absolute truth. Sometimes in doing my research, on the knife forums, you'll see where somebody put together a Tang stamp chart, and it's their best recollection. So, although this gives you a good guide, just because you see this particular Tang stamp on a knife doesn't mean that it falls into that date, and I'll get onto that in just a moment. So use these Tang stamp charts as a guide, but don't use them as absolute truth. Another thing that I would like to point out is, just because you have this Tang stamp here, and we'll look at this one, and you'll see this is a dead giveaway. This one's easy to identify because it has the USA coming down the side. Very easy to identify as it was probably made, and I said probably made, between 1945 and 1955, as you can see the USA coming down. Some of the other ones are a little harder to see. Here's another one with the USA down the side. And this is a nice two-ended jack that Terry from Terry's Knives and Man Stuff sent me recently. But you can see it has the USA down the side also. And then we can look at this one. Love this fish knife. Just love this fish knife. You can see that one there, and it does not have the USA down the side. Now, in closer observation of it, study of it, I determined that it was probably fell into the 1938 to 1941 time era. Now, getting back to the Tang stamp isn't always a good indication. Well, it's a good indication, but let's say that this blade here had a Tang stamp. Oh, let's say it had one from 38 to 41. Okay. You think, well, okay, this camp knife was made between 38 and 41. Well, what I have found with other knives and knife companies is it's possible that the blade, right, the blade was stamped out between 38 and 41 because they determined, for example, they're going to sell 1,000 of them a year, so we're going to stamp out 5 years worth. So they stamp out 5,000 of them. Well, when they go to construct this knife, they're using this one that's was stamped out 5 years ago. So maybe this one was actually put together and actually made 5 years later than what you see on the Tang stamp. And you kind of see that on multi-bladed knives. I ran across that on one of my buck knives. And one of my first earliest videos is I went over Tang stamps and, you know, beware, collectors beware, because you think you know what the age is based on that Tang stamp, but it's not necessarily so. Another example of that would be, I have this combination set. And I did a video on this one. It's got this dual sheath. And here's a Hammer brand fixed blade. Let me see if I can get that Tang stamp to show. It's been worn, but there is no USA coming down the side of it. So I am assuming there's probably 38 to 41. But the second part of the set, which goes right in here, you can see this is the one with the USA down the side. So they probably had a whole bunch of these made up, and when they decided to come out with the dual set, you can see there's the fixed blade is from one era, and the camp knife is from a different era. Now, I do want to reiterate, everybody do your own research. I usually say this on a lot of my videos. I try to research, I try to come up with the most accurate information, but every now and then you think you got it all figured out, and then you find some more information somewhere else that might be contradictory. So this is a guide. Again, it's not meant to be verbatim truth. I'm going to hold this here, so if anyone wants to pause this so they can study it, you can hit pause and look at that. And that's why, again, since Imperial bought out Hammer, that's why you kind of have the Imperial Tang stamps mixed in with the Hammer brand. Now, I also notice here it shows there's a gap from 41 to 45. I don't know if they stopped making them during World War II or just what that deal is, or you know, maybe one of these dates are wrong, or maybe they're missing one. I don't know. So there's just a quick guide on how to date your Hammer brand, but this pertains to just about every brand of knife out there. And to my viewer, I hope this helps you out. Study that Tang stamp chart and see if you can determine. If it doesn't help, if you would, take a picture of your Tang stamp and send it to me on Instagram, or send me an email with as best of a close-up of that Tang stamp as you can, and I'll try to help you out. So anyway, we're going to wrap this up. I hope you found this helpful. Down here in the right-hand corner is going to be a link to my playlist. In the center is a big round Knife Delights button. Hit that if you'd like to subscribe. And down in the left-hand corner, well, that's the next video YouTube thinks you should watch. So until next time, have a very delightful day.